All right. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Give everyone a few minutes here. And I think we have one pre-submitted question. So we'll get that posted. Give that person a minute to join and answer that. All right. Hey, Jeremy. I have a null data structure with date time fields. Sometimes these are null. When making reports, these null dates appear as 1/1/1753 instead of a blank. What's the best way to not show this null date? You should be able to, you need to actually set your data, you need to set your date time field on your object to be nullable, to allow nulls, and then you should be able to get a proper null. Otherwise, we're specifying a default date since the date is not set to allow nulls.
Okay.
And that's why you're seeing that sort of really odd SQL Server specific date.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so if on your data type, just go edit your data type, find your date time field, and then select allow null. And then if you run that flow again, the next time you add data that's null, you should see an empty column. There's also something we added for dates. I think you can actually show null instead of have it be empty as well. Just a sec, let me look at here. Yeah, whatever, entity data source, entity name, created on date. Let me see. Do not translate. Format. Maybe it's root. Override display of null values. Yeah, and if you wanted to have it show something where it's null, you can click this override display of null values thing and say anytime a value is null, put null in instead of an empty cell value, just as a note. But yeah, you just need to edit your data type and ensure that it allows nullable dates to get a proper null date.
Okay, thank you so much.
You bet. All right, and we got a question from Greg here. I have a flow with a form. I have the configuration integration set to use interface to generate a URL for the flow in the form. Guest user activated for in-network employees to access the URL. Internal employees use Windows and have credentials. Active Directory is used in decisions. Question: we're trying to avoid having a sign-in screen. When internal employees access the URL link for the form, is there a module or any built-in calls where I can retrieve their Windows usernames within a flow? Let's see. We lost. Are you guys using Active Directory for your user authentication today, Greg?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep.
You can definitely do this with single sign-on. If you use like ADFS,
Okay.
that can do SAML. That if we can get that connected decisions as a SAML service, that's a non-trivial activity. I don't know how to walk you through that now, but that's something that we can help you do. We've done that before.
No, that's okay. I could look into it on my end. I don't need to check it out right now, but I did see something in the docs that said maybe you can't use the Active Directory with this single sign-on module. I'm not sure if it said that exactly.
It's true.
Makes sense.
It would be. It's really one or the other, but we can get clever. Like if you need to use SAML but still sync information from Active Directory, we can build like a custom AD sync schedule flow that can keep account information updated, even if it's not a proper AD sync. There's some flexibility that we have to. Ultimately, what that note in that document means is you can't have a user pick. Like a user either always goes to Active Directory or they always go to the identity provider.
Okay.
That you can't pick and choose how to authenticate a particular account. But yeah, ultimately, we did used to have auto sign in for Active Directory accounts in V6. we lost that ability when we moved to .NET Core because there's just no implementation in .NET Core for that because it
Okay.
needs to be able to run on Linux. And so now the only way to do sort of to do single sign-on is using a single sign-on service. And if you guys are, and we have set up YAML with ADFS before, so
All
that
right.
might be something to dig into.
So, okay, so I could load the module, the single sign-on module into decisions, and then what steps would I have to take to still use the AD?
The
Maybe
question
I'm not
is,
understanding.
yeah, the question is like, so AD's job is to keep your data in sync and to do authentication. It kind of has two roles that it fulfills for you, right?
Yep.
Like you pointed at an AD server with some groups selected. Maybe there's other options there, right? And then
Yeah.
it pulls all the users in those groups.
Yep,
And
that's
it
correct.
deactivates or adds users to groups as they show up, right? It just keeps that group and user association piece.
Yeah.
So we can keep the latter half of that, like the group association and the active and deactive piece that runs on a sync. We would
Okay.
have to build, we have some sample flows we could give you. We'd have to build like a custom AD sync flow. And we disable the existing Active Directory sync schedule job that you have and run this custom flow. And then you would fully configure your application to use single sign-on instead of Active Directory. And we'd have to run some update commands on all of the decisions accounts and restart the service, so that they would now use single sign-on.
Okay.
It's not a trivial thing to set up. It's a little bit of work to get all that done.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I understand a little bit better now. Would you be able to email me like a little more information on it, like maybe examples? Is that possible?
Yes. Yeah. Let me get a support ticket open for you, and then we can work on that through a support ticket. The
Okay,
support
sure.
team can help you. Like we've got people that are good with single sign-on can help you get that sorted.
All right.
And so yeah, let me actually check really quick something. Maybe I can just get you on a call with Strip. Yeah, let me talk to Tony, your customer success manager, and then get him to follow up and schedule something with one of our SSO experts.
All right.
And
Thank you. I
guys can
appreciate
talk
it.
about that. You bet. Happy to help.
Thanks.
One. Okay, and there's that. So, and all right, Radley, what do you got for us, sir?
Hey, well, I got a couple questions for you today. A sub-dialog flow within a form. At the end of the sub-dialog flow, I want to have some data entered back into the parent form. And from what I'm seeing, that's not possible. I mean, the flow runs and the sub-dialog runs fine, but the data that I want to put back into the form isn't working. Just want to check my expectations there if that's possible or not.
That you should be able to send data from a sub-dialog back to the parent flow?
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. You absolutely should be able
Okay.
to.
Okay.
There should be like I think you define outputs on the change data in step of the sub-dialog flow. And then those outputs show up as on the sub-dialog. If you're on the parent form and you click the sub-dialog button, you should see those output datas in the property grid for that sub-dialog button.
Okay. And then when I finish the sub-dialog, I can send data back to the parent form.
For sure.
Okay. Okay. I didn't mess with the outputs on the sub dialog flow. Maybe I'll try that. Okay, I can give that a shot. And then second question, I have completely unrelated. I have a scenario where I want a known user or a named user to be able to start a workflow, enter in some data,
Mhm.
and then have a guest user take that over.
Okay.
Is
Sure.
it possible? Is there a way to have some sort of personalized link or URL for the assignment for that guest user, so they're not actually getting into the portal?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a doc for this. Let's see
Oh,
what the
awesome.
name of it is. I think it's called guest assignments. Using guest account for anonymous tasking. This should walk you through the whole thing. And basically what you do is leverage your on-step run flow. You create like a custom on-step run flow that has a link that creates an email. It's really quality screenshot there. That gives you, here's assignment type assigned to guest, take some inputs in.
It's anonymous tasking.
Oh, creating an on-step run flow that defines assigned behavior of the assigned form, creating the assigned form flow. This is, let me check the V6 doc. Enabling guest account. Yes. Using guest account for anonymous tasking. Find a guest. I wouldn't use guest, I'd use name session, just a note, but the process should be the same. And I feel like something's missing here. Ultimately, what you do is you build, I don't think it shows it here. You build like a separate flow. And I think you have to use, oh no, maybe not. I guess you can just send it right to them. If you do assign a name session, use a name session, then you can use the on-step run flow to send a custom email with the link to the assignment in it. And then they can click that link, not have any authentication, and be taken to the form and then complete the task for you.
Very good. Cool. That's what I had for today.
Yeah, so I think
Cool.
both of these probably are fine, but yeah, that's that doc you're looking for. Guest or using guest account for anonymous tasking.
Awesome. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Bet. Okay, Adrian, who's this question from? From Manal. Thank you. Hey Manal, let me see here. Let me let you speak. The download send report Excel icon not showing up on the dashboard. Is there any way to fix that? Okay. So you're looking to see why this thing might not be showing?
So it has like download send report. It just doesn't show the icon. Like if you hover over it, it shows that download send report that it's there, but it's just the icon is missing.
From this list right here? Or whatever it
Just
might look like in whatever version you're running?
just the print download, the Excel one. The printer is missing. Yes, this one. Everything else is there.
Is it on all reports or just one report?
It's in all of them. It's for the portal. So anybody in portal cannot see it, but if you're in the studio, you can see it. So I was wondering if there's a rule or something I can fix, I can do to fix this.
Yeah, there's probably like is it end user portal and designer studio?
So in portal, it shows for everybody. It doesn't show for anyone, either for users or designers. But in studio, it shows for everybody. But only us like developers have the access to studio.
Right. Okay. So it works in the studio, not in the end user portal.
Yes.
Set that at. Is there a report meta setting for that? Report headers. Go header as a toolbar. Okay. Default page, default project view, flow, agent, rule, truth table, form, background data repeater, simple form, inform, default page, template, base page. Just what starts. Maybe someone edited the default folder review report. I don't think you can control.
Yeah, it's usually like
actions
it was
here.
there last time. It just got one of our developers said that it's not anymore there. It was there before.
And it's on like a, just to confirm, like if you go in the end user portal to like my apps or like a folder and you're on folder view and you click this, you can't see the icon, the icon is missing.
Yes. So when I go to the gear, well, in V6, it's just a gear, so I see everything besides
Right.
that printer icon. But everything like it works. Like if I hover over it, if I click on it, but it's not there, the icon, so they don't know what it is unless if they hover over it.
Their data sources. What? I don't think you can edit this page.
I restarted from the server side too, but it didn't do anything because I thought it might help.
Hmm. Search header. Where? Gotta be something. Worked. Header. So you're saying that you can hover over it? You can hover over it and see, but and you can even click it and it'll show the action.
Yes, I can click over it. It shows like the download send report, the box, but it just doesn't show the printer.
Oh, then maybe we change the icon in theme editor without thinking about it. If you look at themes, let me look if I search for download. Or download link color. CSV editor download folder time. What is this? Icon download dark no repeat center. What is that?
Yeah, if you want, I can like share my screen and show it to you. It's just so weird. It's just the icon missing.
Yo, presenter.
Okay.
Alex is saying CSS. It might very well be.
Let me see if you can see my screen.
I can see.
Okay, so it's just this is the portal, and I go up here. For example, this one is just
Yeah. Control Shift. Do Control Shift. Open up Chrome DevTools. Control Shift I should be it, unless you're on a Mac.
control.
You're not.
Yeah, this is the window. It doesn't do anything.
F12.
12. Okay, there we go.
And let me just control your screen really quick.
Sure. Just approve.
And there it is, print report. So, all right, go back to this. Maybe someone just edited it. Print action hover. Go
Go to studio.
Yeah, please.
Gotcha.
I think someone would have edited the print icon for that. Right click on the system folder,
System.
and then there should be a theme editor action, theme editor. And then just search for print when this loads. Let me take back control.
Mhm.
This is the icons there. It's only in the end user portal.
It's just the portal. So in Studio, everything shows up, just not in portal.
Got to be in the theme editor. And this is for everybody.
For everybody, because I'm admin on this, so I can't see it. And when I try to log in by anybody, it doesn't do it either.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Manal. There's got to be some change to theme or CSS. That's. I don't see any.
Gosh, do you think it's just version 6? Is that? But we used to have it. It's just all of a sudden it went away.
Yeah, so I think someone might have messed with the CSS or changed the icon. I think probably need a support ticket to help out here. I'm
Okay.
unsure why it's, I mean, clearly that it's portal, it's either permissions in some way, where I'm a place for permissions I'm unsure of, or some sort of change to the portal CSS that's causing it not to show. But I don't think you can control this with permissions at all. Let me just try. Let me see. Let me go to folder view here. Yeah, it's here too. Oh, and I don't think there's a group global setting for this, so I'm not sure. Yeah, we probably need support's help here. I'm sorry about that.
Oh yeah, no, it's okay. I'll let him know that put a support ticket. Thank you so much.
You bet. And I'll go ahead and move you back to, or someone could. I can't. Could someone make Manal back to be an audience member, please? Do we have any other questions? Wade says if it's Firefox, it doesn't show some icons for me. I use Chrome primarily, but sometimes test in Firefox. That might be something to consider. Manal. Oh, here we go. Wade, go ahead. What do you have for us, sir?
Oh yeah, I got something else, but I was just commenting on that. I just noticed I seen she was using Chrome, so I didn't look to be affected, but I noticed that like the random icons seem to be, doesn't work on Firefox. I use Chrome primarily, but I just
Gotcha.
trying to throw
Yeah.
that in the, throwing that in the ring, just trying to help. Doesn't look like that's what it is, but I just throw it out there. My question was just some guidance, really. One request that came in for me is it's like an allocation tool, and this tool is going to have, I think, upwards of 300 questions.
Okay.
So, and it's these questions can range from maybe just a yes, no, maybe it's a pick list, but one would decide the previous one would decide which one to go to. It's just a big decision tree.
Right.
What is your advice for the best way to handle all those questions? Is each question a form, or is there a better way to do that? Like I don't say a better, but quicker way?
There is no easy answer to this question. Like if you do it with forms, you're gonna be, building a ton of forms and then having kind of spaghetti strings of outcome paths in your flow as you connect things together. If you want to make it more simple, there's a thing called a mixed type repeater, and the mixed type repeater allows you to show different user controls based on on an object, and that way you can have like more of a dynamic SERP where you show like in the same control like text boxes and drop down lists or radio buttons or other sort of controls. That one takes a little bit of setup work, but can allow you to do more of like a data design where you might have like objects in a folder and you might just loop one form over and over again, showing a different question, or you might show all the questions in line with each other. Now, this is something we're working on. So let me just a second here. So let me see who's your CSM. Where is this at on your on your roadmap in terms of when you're going to start to get working on this?
Not soon, maybe a couple months out, probably.
Gotcha.
Maybe a month or two.
So this lines up with something we're working on in the solutions team. So what I'd like to do is actually get Neil to give you a demo of our dynamic questionnaire, which is probably something we'll have ready for prime time in the next 6 to 8 weeks. And if not, at minimum, you could, if it's interesting to you, we'd give it to you and you could just start working off of it. But this sounds a lot like that. Like ultimately what you'd be looking at is, let me reshare my screen. Is
like an add-on service or included with?
Yeah, just a project that we're working to deploy into the App Store.
Oh, okay.
Like we've found a lot of customers. Am I on the right screen now? Can y'all see the Lunch and Learn title slide?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just a project that we're building to put into the App Store with these other things. It's just we found a bunch of people are building these questionnaires, and so we want to do one, but we have I don't have it locally. Otherwise, I kind of show it to you. In fact, actually, let me import my very rough prototype, and I can just, since there's no other questions, I don't think. Just a moment here. Let me find it on my others.
Yeah, it's not necessarily. Yeah, that's what's with this. It's doesn't even really just like the. I don't even say input. It just needs to go to a start screen and then output the one single result, and all in between is just. It's all within decisions. Just a question leads to a question leads to 3. Let's say potentially 30 questions deep. But all together, depending on where they go, I mean, it involves a total of 300 some questions. He told me he was at. I think he was at like 275 last time I talked to him.
Yeah, some of the stuff you might find that gets a little tricky there is like, then you're going to start saving your state, right? Because someone's not going to do all 300, right? Like in one sitting.
Yeah, because it's very possible maybe they don't know the answer and they got to pause it and go ask someone else to get that answer and then come back to it.
So let me just show you this thing. If anything, it might just. This is like, and the cool thing is we're trying to like put this in the hands of the end user as well. So that like they can keep their own question list. So you can actually build a user interface for that guy, that person to manage his own question list independently of you and test his surveys out and things like that. Surveys probably a bit too specific of a concept, but like here we have these things like a live questionnaire. Can I add one? Sample questionnaire. And basically we've built this thing that like it reads in the contents of a folder and it turns it into a form for you. So you can see how do you feel as a text box control, and you can add new questions. This is very rough. So here's a new text question, and let me edit it and say like, what is your pet's name? Sequence number 1. And it gives you the ability to build these dynamic form experiences based on the content in a folder instead of you going to build these forms yourself. Because one of the things is like, as soon as that user needs like a change, you've got to go in and add a new form or edit a form and deploy and do a bunch of work for probably a small change. But this thing we're working on is getting pretty close. I mean, we've only been working on it for a few weeks, but I don't think it's going to take us more than 4 to 6 weeks to do.
Would it get to the point where if you answer, let's say question 1, it would, if you answer yes, it would take you to 2. If you answer no, it'd take you to question 3.
Yeah, it'll either hide and show in line here, so it would add another question below, or there's multi pages, and you could have it be that it only, question 2 only shows if question 1 is answered in some sort of affirmative way. So yes, it'll have that concept as well. It'll have kind of inline, like in list, as well as multi-form dynamic hiding and showing of content.
But yeah, that'd be fantastic.
So
anything
what I'd
to like speed up this 300 question project.
Yeah, these things kind of turn into a beast when you start doing it very manually. Or you have to kind of get into the guts of how the data objects and decisions work. Like, and we're doing a bunch of sort of clever trickery with the flow engine to get this to work. Either way, it can't hurt to get you a demo of that in progress solution so that you could use it. You could decide if it like maybe fits the need or not. And if it does, then we'd be happy to give it to you and let you take it and do whatever you need with it.
That'd be great.
So I'm going to ask Neil to reach out and set up a review of that with you.
Okay,
But ultimately, you probably want the design is going to be some sort of list of things in a folder, and then your flow would loop and show something on a form, not 300 forms, but 300 like folder entities that you fetch that have like a sequence or an order to them, right? And then you could fetch them with like that sequence number. So you could have them fetched in the appropriate order, pass that to a for each loop, and then you would loop through that for each loop to show the question on the form, and then have some logic somewhere that says like, do I skip question 2? Yes or no? And then you could, that's the sort of the top down design you'd be looking for is data fetching for each loop with a form step, an in session form step in the middle of that for each as you loop through.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much.
Let me ask Neil. Okay. Let's see. Do we have any other questions from anybody? No, Alex. All right. And Go ahead, Alex. What you got for us, sir?
Something, straightforward, and then just another general question, like the limit count when dealing with, database objects. Like, is that like you set it to 0 if you want everything kind of thing, and then but you can otherwise set it to a specific integer to return a couple of.
Yeah,
those?
it should be set to ignore if you don't want to use it, or a specific number.
Oh, so
I don't-
ignore is the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
I don't ever use it. Like if I'm putting in I don't really use get all from table steps. I personally prefer like queries as opposed to table integrations. And so I would write my restriction in the query text myself. But yeah, ignore completely ignores it, or an integer should restrict the number, the row count you get back.
Okay, so I think okay, so yeah, when I go into my integrations database name, and then it's got all of the objects that I've created there, and then I just drag that out onto the surface, and by default that step has a limit count that needs to have something.
What
So
step is it?
Well, so if I go, I'm going to do this. I go into integration, and then databases, and then my database name, for example, and I've got like something that goes run query jobs, and I pull that out, and by default, it has a limit
It
count
does.
already that is in red, saying that I have to specify something.
You can just ignore it.
Oh,
That's the
so-
simplest way to do it. If you don't intend to use it, just setting it to ignore gets rid of the validation and is a valid configuration for that step.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and the other thing is that I'm looking at this this question thing, which seems quite interesting, possibly for some future thing of mine. But another thing that intrigues me, that has been intriguing me for a number of years now, is you guys have been working on something related to documents. And I'm noticing that there's like a webinar upcoming, I think on the 23rd of March, going over that. Is that like decisions response to like document management kind of thing?
I mean, we've always had document management, like it's part of the product, but it's not something that is fully fleshed out in any sort of real way. I don't know. I don't think there's I don't think that webinar is discussing a new feature enhancement as much as it is just talking more, using document management as a way to talk about the workflow engine and its flexibility. I'm probably not doing a good job of selling that webinar.
a couple of years ago, you guys did a demo on document management within decisions, and it was quite like evolved, like in terms of a project. And I kind of got hooked into that, kind of asking, when that was going to be available. And then I'm not sure what happened on your guys' end or my guys' end, but like I was just wondering if that project ever kind of made it to fruition.
Let's figure out what that is, man. I don't know myself, but let me tag Neil in and ask for his help in running that down for us.
Okay, and
maybe you could help us remember when it was.
Yeah,
like
I'll
that.
send you the last email that I got on the subject.
Yeah, you bet. Like we might, if we have a project that is, I mean, at minimum, I'd be happy to get it into your hands, right?
Okay,
No, that stuff is any of the stuff we build internally that's not built for a customer specific. We are always happy to toss that stuff to you guys to use or to chew on. Like we have no concerns about sharing any of that stuff. So
great.
I'm going to ask Neil to follow up with you, Alex.
Okay, appreciate that. And as I say, I'll find the last email that I got on this thread and I'll forward it to both of you.
For all I know, they could be using the same workflow, the same project for this thing coming up.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Let me. I'll just tag Neil and Alex. I'll see if he can't help us track that down.
I appreciate that.
All right. Anybody else got anything? Okay. All right. Thanks for the questions today, everybody. I will be back same time tomorrow. Have a great week. See ya.